okay, I was trained and educated and indoctrinated to fight for the state of Israel, but all the people of Israel was also indoctrinated to participate in effort of real war. But there are families who are in real war every single second. In this picture, you see me as a Major General, the commander of the Israeli Southern Command. And our son in this picture is 18 years old, smiling. He has never said one word, never said Abba, Dad, never said Mom, never made eye contact. And he's the greatest professor of my life. He taught me about us as community, about commitment, about love, about mutual responsibility of our society. And my insight along the march were very stressful. I didn't believe to some of the insights. So at first I want to tell you that children like him are the purest people on earth. They never did wrong to anyone. They never manipulated. They never cheated. They never hit. And they never did wrong, but they are punished. I don't know why. They are punished by broken body. As a matter of fact, they are punished by three life sentences. One is broken body, unable to do anything by their power, unable to dress by themselves, to wash themselves, to eat by themselves. They need assistance on every step. Number one. Number two, one day they are taken and put in institute for the rest of their life. And number three, behind heavy walls of shame and stigma and stereotype. How we measure people? We measure people by their capacity. You're good, okay, we praise you. We give you bonus, dividend, we give you a title in the newspaper, the Prime Minister will raise telephone and tell you how wonderful are you. If you are nothing, we do not count on people who are nothing. So what I discover, we put children like them, like him, in institute behind heavy walls, and some of them taken overseas. So for him, we build a village, a special village, a wonderful place, a paradise. And the left picture is 22. It's 6 months before he passed away. Independence Day ceremony in Ale Negev, now Nachalat Iran property, named after him, is holding video cassette from age 3, the same video cassette. He was repeating again and again and again and again and again, watching the same video. On the right picture, my wife Didi and me standing with him on the first day of the groundbreaking ceremony, bringing him to the place that we hope would be a full life stay until he passed away. We didn't believe it will come at the age 23. We built this village because we believed that we would pass away before him. We wanted to guarantee his future. I want to tell you that in Israel, these children are bounded by special education law. The special education law say the Israeli government treat these children from age 3 up to 21, not over. So we wanted to guarantee his future after 21. He was born when I was leading missions in Sudan. In this picture, you see the Prime Minister of Israel at that time, Yitzhak Shamir, welcoming us when we came back from Sudan, bringing in each operation about 600 Jews from the Sudani desert, Jews from Ethiopia, Jews who were at risk, at misery, suffer, and we brought them to the only Jewish state in the world. I don't want to tell you too much about my military career, but I want to focus on our values. Why we flew to Sudan? We flew because we have commitment to every Jew over the world. If you are in trouble, the only Jewish state, the state of Israel, will come and stretch its hand and assist you and save your life. That's our oath when we come to serve in the Israel Defense Forces. We say we are ready to give our life for defending our country. But in respect of our child, Iran, I found that it seems this commitment is not prevailed. Children like him were taken and put in institute overseas. For instance, Yigal Allon, don't know if you heard about Yigal Allon, a legendary general, the most successful general in Independence War. The Allon family were having a girl, Nurit, born in Kibbutz Genosar. She was diagnosed with severe brain injury, described as beautiful child, but at the age 5, they decided to take their child, to take Nurit and put her in Scotland, far away from the state of Israel. No place was found in the only Jewish state in the world, neither in the kibbutz nor in the family. The Allon family didn't want. Our Prime Minister Golda Meir was also a grandmother to Meira. She has never said a word about Meira. Meira passed away 2 years ago. And many high-ranking officers hid their disabled children. And this insight for me was shocking. And I swear for our child to never hide him, never put him in institute. When Didi, my wife, and me looked over institute in the state of Israel, we were surprised by the conditions. You open the door, and then you are blown by the smell, and then distorted faces of children who are afraid from the world and shameful stuff. So we decided to do something different. I was the first Israeli soldier to land in Entebbe, the famous raid to rescue 105 Israeli hostages. Yesterday was the memorial service to Yoni Netanyahu, the only Israeli soldier who fell in the battle, the brother of our Prime Minister. It was July 4, 1976. 53 minutes on the ground, we killed the 7 terrorists and brought back the 105 Israeli hostages. Yoni was killed, Ersko Surin got a bullet in his head. 3 of the hostages were killed. But we did the mission. And we stood by our commitment to save Jews who were taken hostage by terrorists. But I'm telling you, the sound of our son, the child was never spoken one word, like telling me, my dear father, you flew to Entebbe to save 105 Israeli hostages, but I'm hostage of our society from birth. Are you ready also to save me? Are you ready to maintain, to build a social Entebbe? You see in this picture the hostages of Entebbe. 1 week they were taken. 1 week they were held as hostage. So yeah, the contrast between the situation of severely disabled, at that time they were called in Israel retarded. The contrast between our values, from one side to ordinary people, to normal people, and from the other side, children like him. In this picture, you see my brother on the left side, Lieutenant Eran Avrutsky. That's my family name before I changed it to Almog. I'm 22, he's 20. That's about 3 months before the Yom Kippur War, 1973. We smiled, we thought the Arabs will never go to another round. They're afraid after the mighty victory of 67 wars, the 6-day wars. We were surprised. we were intoxicated by our great victory of 67. He was the commander of the 2nd platoon in D Company, 82nd Platoon, the 7th Brigade, the 7th Glorious Brigade. This is his burnt tank. I found his tank, his burnt tank after the war. He was shot by Syrian tank. This is the hull of the Syrian projectile. He was thrown outside, and here on the Golanite soil, he was bleeding. Not 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, 7 days. We say in military, never leave the wounded behind. Yes, we swear when we come to serve the state of Israel, never leave the wounded behind. My brother was left behind. 7 days, evacuated, dead already. Here near his burnt tank, I built his memorial. I built from this plate of iron, and the other side plate, I built a memorial for him. And I swore to continue staying in military as combat soldier and never ever leave a wounded soldier behind. Just like that. Luckily, I succeeded. I've been through hundreds of battles and lost many soldiers, commanders across my military service. And luckily, I succeed to stand for my brother. I always felt I'm fighting for him, and he is protecting me. His spirit always protecting me. 11 years after the Yom Kippur War, my wife Didi and me found ourselves raising a child. He is like a huge echo box of my bleeding brother, unable to do anything by his power, need our assistance on every single step. For him, when I was the commander of the Israeli South Command, for him, my friend in Aleph Foundation and me decided to build a village, a wonderful place. There's nothing like the Ale Negev. It's not another institute. It's social community center. We combine people, Muslims who are living in south of Israel, Bedouin, Jews, and Christians, volunteers who are working together. It's an amazing place. It's a paradise, giving the highest life standard, but above all, love. Loving the disabled. This is our commitment. State-of-the-art education system, healthcare, entertainment, social life, everything. This is the village. When we started, it was desert, yellow. Now it's a paradise, really paradise. Ale Negev is an integrative community center or social community center. How we integrate people? Number one, by rehabilitation. What is rehabilitation? Rehabilitation is a service we need to people after accident. It may be road accident, home accident. It may be stroke, cancer. It may be after COVID-19 and some other disease. About 20% of our population need rehabilitation from time to time. So we are the center of rehabilitation for all the people who are living in south of Israel, about 1 million people. We have contract with the Israeli HMOs, with Ministry of Defense, so we treat soldiers and ordinary people together with severely disabled, together with children like our son that in the past, they were isolated. Education, we do education for ordinary, completely normal children from age 1. And ordinary, we have a kindergarten integrating ordinary children, teaching children from age 1 what is social responsibility, what is ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, what is kol Israel arevim ze lazeh. We all responsible one for each other. Occupation, yes, we give jobs to 500 people working in Ale Negev, but also we do vocational therapy for people all of a sudden need to make rehabilitation, to gain their physical capacity. Volunteering, we have in Ale Negev 800 volunteers. 800 volunteers. On every worker, we have about 2 volunteers. We have volunteers from Germany, from Holland, from UK, from Canada, from Australia, from United States, from Peru, from Paraguay, from Taiwan, whatever. Visits, we say there is mitzvat bikur cholim. Yes, in the past, no one came to visit disabled children like him. Every day in Ale Negev before the COVID-19 pandemic, every day 100 people came to visit. Now we limit ourselves to 20 every day. Here you see the hydrotherapy center. This, by the way, this guy here in the white shirt is rabbi. All of a sudden, stroke. He does the rehabilitation by hydrotherapies, galit in the water. There is pikuach nefesh, saving life. When saving life, okay, woman and man working together. On the right side, you see the ordinary kindergarten, and you see with the teacher, her name Sima. I did the cross-examination with Sima. When did she come to Israel? When did she come to Israel? She arrived to Israel in 1984, the same year that, yes, I led an operation in Sudan. She was 12 years old. I brought her and her family from Sudan. Now she is the teacher. From time to time, she's crying, telling me there is discrimination. We are the Ethiopian Jews. We are discriminated here in our Jewish country. She's crying and then wipe her tears and telling, bring more disabled children to my kindergarten. I know what is love. I know what is inclusion. On the left side, you see another kindergarten for disabled children with the Aya, Kibbutznikit. In this picture, you see Meir Avergil from south of Israel and Shula Avergil, both of them religious. They arrived 10 years ago, told us, we want to adopt a child. We told them, go over. We have 140. Pick someone. Most of them neglected by parents. Most of the parents do not come to visit. So she found this beautiful girl. They didn't know she is Muslim. Her name Rahma. They call Rahmi. The doctor said at that time, Rahma won't survive. She would pass away. Rahma, today, 10 years old, she is adopted by Shula and Meir Virgil. And when you ask Shula, what do you think about Rahma? She says, I have 5 children. 5 children came from my belly. She came from my heart. This guy named Timo is Christian from Berlin. From Berlin. His grandparents killed Jews in Auschwitz. And he's telling us, I came for atonement. Atonement on killing, destroying 6 million Jews. Atonement on T4 action. I don't know if you know the T4 action. T4 action is signed by Hitler, Ymar Shmo. The T4 Aktia is order that was signed September 1st, 1939, the first day of Second World War. At that day, Hitler signed on order to shift the psychiatric center all over Germany to small concentration camp and kill the retarded due racist ideology. So you know what Timo and his friend from Germany, he is telling us, no more racist ideology. We need to break down racism in our world. We all human beings. We all equal, not equal by our power, but equal by our rights. Visits, you see the Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and his wife, you see Benjamin Gantz, now Minister of Defense, but at that time he was Chief of Staff. You see people from United States, the JNF, the Jewish National Fund, a strategic partner, and they're arriving to visit before the COVID-19. They arrive every week. A bus of tourists from United States came to visit us. In this picture, you see soldier, this soldier, woman soldier, Shir Becher. Unfortunately, she was killed in accident while traveling in Peru 7 years ago. I wrote something in my Facebook on Liron. Liron is severely disabled, CP, cerebral paralysis in a wheelchair. I wrote something in a wheelchair, and then the mother of Shir wrote or published in my Facebook all these pictures of Shir and Liron. Liron never spoken one word, Liron severely disabled. Look what's written in Hebrew. Be'ale Negev im Liron ba'ali la'atid. In Ale Negev with Liron, my future husband. That's what she sent home. What she's telling us. She's telling us, Al tistakel b'kankan ela be'ma sheyesh bo. Don't look at the outside. Look at the inside. The inside of us, what people are we if we leave them behind, if we leave them in the street. Ale Negev is a paradise. You disabled gardeners. All our gardeners, they are not residents of the village. They have, all of them, they have light disability. They are workers. We have 26 gardeners, and they make Ale Negev green and bloom and flourish. And they are workers, and they are paid, and they are on our payroll. And they have great pride on being at the first place that respect them, honor them, and pay them with all the social conditions. Some rehabilitation. Jonathan Avida is a doctor at Stanford, United States. A parachute accident, and he landed on his skull, broken the bones in his head, nearly died, arrived to rehabilitation in Ale Negev. He is now back on his leg. He can't see well, but he's independent. We gave him great rehabilitation. This is his mother. She's judge in south of Israel, Judge Ruth Avida. Maor is a soldier. So he was wounded in battle in Jerusalem. Got two bullets in his back and one bullet in his head. You see the chief of staff, Gadi Eisenkot, on left picture, visiting him. On the right, our prime minister visiting Maor. Law, she's resident of Beersheba, mother to 3. All of a sudden, she was just bite by mosquito Nile, nearly died, and she got rehabilitation in Ale Negev, and she's back alive. Karen is also officer in the Israel Defense Forces, is major. Horrible accident, she nearly passed away. She was in coma 8 months and then arrived to rehabilitation service in Ale Negev. She is back on her own. During the corona, we are working with full protective gear. We don't have yet any residents suffer the COVID-19. We discovered 2 of our workers suffering illness, the COVID-19, the beginning of March, and a group of soldiers arrived to assist us to sanitize. You see the briefing. This woman, she is Bedouin, she is Muslim, she's one of the best workers in Ale Negev from day one, 14 years. She's working with us. In this picture, you see 42 girls, all of them in a wheelchair, after discovering 2 workers suffering COVID-19. Then we started to work with tough regulation covering all our workers by the PPE, the personal protective equipment. Avi Wortman is the CEO of Ale Negev, briefing soldiers. That in this picture you see before sanitizing. Another institute of Ale in Gedera. In this institute, we have a huge crisis. 27 people were suffering the COVID-19. 27, 20 kids and 7 workers. So we brought also soldiers for sanitizing. This woman here, she's the manager, but most of the workers didn't want to come. From about 100 workers, we found ourselves with 18. Like the bad days in Italy, that nursing home and Institute for Disabled People were evacuated, were left. Most of the workers ran away and people passed away in their rooms alone. So she, the manager, Naama, she was in huge crisis. She phoned me and said I don't know how to continue. I put the key of the institute on the table and leave the place. I cannot continue managing. I did a Zoom conversation with students from Galil Elyon preparatory army program, 17 years old, 18 years old. I asked them and their parents. And one night I spoke with 80 youngsters with their parents. I asked them, please come and assist us. We say, Kol Israel Arevim de Lazeh. This is a moment of crisis. This is a moment of emergency. Please come. They came in about 12 hours. They came 30 students, boys and girls. They arrived. We welcomed them. We gave them a place to stay, dining, briefing. After the first 24 hours, the first shock of the 24 hours, the first 24 hours, they got used and they fell in love. And our children, they didn't want to leave. But after the Galil Elyon, we brought another preparatory, the Tavor, and then 5 Fingers from Zichron Yaakov, and then the Be'eri preparatory. So we have wonderful, wonderful youngsters in Israel that before the military service, they came as volunteers. We gave them all equipment. We did testing every week, and they did amazing work. And they gave pride and power and motivation to our workers to come back. You see the staff in Ale Negev continue working as usual in a horse riding therapy center, in the garden. You see volunteers from overseas, from Germany, from Holland here. We didn't allow families to come and visit, so we maintain conversation with those families who want to keep contact with their children, like in this picture, using iPhone, using cell. In this picture, you see testing. We did testing every 5 days. We do testing to all our residents and workers. And I want to conclude in telling you, we right now, we are leading huge projects for all the people who are living in south of Israel. Number one is the new rehabilitation hospital for 108 people. This is a huge project, about $70 million project. This is the new rehabilitation hospital for all the people who are living in south of Israel. You see it here on the left side, on the right side here. You see neighborhood for students, volunteers, and workers here. And here in the desert, we are going to build a community for 500 families. This is in this sketch, you see Ale Negev right now. This is the new rehabilitation hospital, the new project in 20. You see the residents, the rehabilitation, the neighborhood, the dormitories for our workers and students, and 23 will be a community for 500 families. Tikkun Olam program is about inclusion. It's about teaching students 17 years old how to accept those who are unprivileged. So we have right now 20,000 students together with Israel Ministry of Education. This is a one-year program. And we started a new project of Vocational Creative Center in Ofakim. This is here. This is the mayor of Ofakim together with me. We qualify people to work with electronic chips here, disabled people to work for Flextronics. It's a big company, 4,000 workers in Ofakim, based in Ofakim. They produce, we qualify them to work in Flextronics. And for more occupation, I want you to know, Rabbi Mendel, we have in Israel about 80,000 disabled people who are able to be integrated in work. Right now, no one wants to take them, neither the IDF nor the business in Israel. And we raise high another flag, integrating disabled people to work. And the last slide, want to tell you that the strength of the chain of humanity is always measured by its weakest link. The more we do to strengthen this link, we are better people, better society, better community. Thank you very much, and I'm with you.
Wow, Doron, that was a very, very moving presentation, and you shared throughout such powerful nuggets of wisdom and inspiration. I actually was busy writing down some of those comments so that I can share them over the years going forward in different remarks that I give, because I found them to be so profound. I want to spend a few minutes, with your permission, asking you a few questions on some things that we were discussing a little earlier. First of all, I'm going to ask Liron to WhatsApp my dear esteemed brother, Rabbi Moshe, the link to the organization for anybody who would like to follow up with concrete support, material support for this wonderful initiative. You know, so often people ask me, Rabbi, I would love to help out in Israel in particular. I think there's no greater cause that benefits Israel and those weaker links, as Doron mentioned so powerfully, than this tremendous initiative that brings dignity and that brings grace and that brings respect and inclusivity to those who are otherwise marginalized and overlooked. So Doron, with your permission, I'm going to ask you certain things that are somewhat personal, maybe less personal. You are no stranger, sadly, to tragedy and loss. Having lost your brother Eran in the Yom Kippur War, having lost, unfortunately, 2 of your precious children, if I understand correctly, having lost numerous family members to a terrible bombing in Haifa. I wasn't sure how was that your brother and his?
No, their cousin. My uncle, Zeev Almog. Zeev Almog was 71. He was a legendary in the Israeli Navy. By the way, he brought the Leviathan submarine from Portsmouth, from United Kingdom, 1968. Israel bought 2 submarines, the Leviathan and Dakar. Dakar sank along the voyage near Italy, and he brought the Leviathan submarine. He was a legend in our Navy. He was the commander of the Naval Academy in Akko for 23 years. His wife, Ruti, was Holocaust survivor, Auschwitz Holocaust survivor, also an officer in our Navy. She was 70 years old. Their son, Moshik, was 43, and 2 grandsons, Asaf and Tomer, 9 and 11. But there were 9 around the table, and other 4 were badly, critically wounded. Doron Almog lost his sight, he's blind. He was 10 years old, now he's 26. He served in military. Wow.
What a terrible story. In one act of terror, this family was essentially terribly taken from us in one sitting. And so my question to you is, how did you personally deal with those crushing losses? What kept you going in the darkest moments of despair and grief?
You know, Rabbi Mendel, every Passover, every Pesach, you say, Bedamai Chai. You say, you see, okay, maybe my family paid higher price comparing other families, but we, the Jewish people, a long generation, we pay high price. I just mentioned the 6 million Jews that were killed in Holocaust. And yes, we pay high price for our independence, for the only Jewish state in the world, to build the third temple. So, okay, well, what I feel that we are committed. We are committed to the legacy of the Jewish people. We are committed to defend the only Jewish state and to do the maximum effort with all our power to shake the boundaries of Israel and to make the society of Israel a model society. Yes, this is imperative for me. Yeah. Okay, you know, we have enough time in grave to rest.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So as long as we are alive, we are doomed to do the maximum effort for better life standard and for loving people and loving disabled.
Beautiful. Doron, you're speaking like a rabbi. I have to tell you, Doron, that it's funny when people tell me, Rabbi, you work so hard, why don't you take a rest? I always say, after 120 years, I'll rest for a while. And I think you make a beautiful point that as long as we receive life and energy and Hashem's gift on this earth, we must use and utilize it to the best of our ability to better our world and society. That's very powerful. And what you said, if I understand correctly, is really moving, because what you said is, yes, the pain is real. Yes, those losses are personal. But if you think only in terms of your own nuclear family, your own personal life, then it's overwhelming. But if you zoom out and you take into perspective that these are the prices we pay across history and time in order to advance our collective and to make this world a better place, then sadly, tragically, one life is the world. Nevertheless, that allows you the strength to go forward and to live another day with everything you have. Doron, the attitude towards children with special needs, as you pointed out, and the conditions, frankly, in the past were really horrifying. I've done some research on this. I wrote a number of books, and in one of the books, actually I have with me right here, called Positivity Bias, based on the life and the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I have an entire chapter about his radical approach to children with special needs. In fact, in the early 70s, he wrote a letter where he introduces the term special needs. The head of the association in America attributes that term to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which is mind-blowing. He said, I take issue with the term retarded and such terms, and instead I would like to offer you the following insight. They should be seen as special or differently abled rather than disabled. And there's a beautiful clip I will send you. I'm going to ask Rabbi Moshe to put up on the chat. One of the great cantors, Chazanim in America, is cantor Joseph Molavani. He's the cantor of the Fifth Avenue Synagogue. He had a child that was called autistic at the time, and he sent his child to an institution in the UK which looked after his son. And he came to the Lubavitch Rebbe to receive $1 on a Sunday from time to time. And the Rebbe would always ask after his son and give $1 for him to give to a charity box in his own room. And you know what? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share the video with you right away so we see it together, and then I'm going to ask a few more questions on this.
Das leider ist nicht gesund. Ist, wenn du sagst, in Englisch, das ist Autistic. Es ist zurückgeblieben in 22, er wird bald 23 Jahre. Er ist in England in einer speziellen Institution in London, eine jüdische Institution. Wir haben keinmal gebracht kein Amerika. Aber davon man muss sie hatte die Schmeier. Schüler.
Wir sagen, die Autistik dann mit Niederschaft, also mit Kindern gescheit ist nicht, sondern mit Menschen gescheit ist nicht. Also mit Lebischen ist die gescheit ist uns wie bei anderen und noch mehr. Man sagt nicht vernommen mit Menschen, was
Wenn sie vernommen
wenn sie vernommen mit Lebischen.
Interessant, dass ich habe einmal probiert mit dem Lernen so.
So I don't know if you caught that, Doron, but what the Rebbe said was something quite moving. He said, while children with special needs may not relate as well socially to other human beings, that allows them to relate to God even better than other human beings, which is quite an incredible, I think personally, a very moving perspective. In fact, I just want to quote one thing. He wrote in a letter to return to the subject, the needs of special children. They are, to be sure, limited in certain areas, and who among us is not? But human experience is full of examples of individuals have been limited in some aspects, yet excelled in other aspects more than others. And so the Rebbe was very passionate about this particular topic, as it happens, and that's the context of the research that I did. But at the time, Doron, you were mentioning that the attitude, the prevailing approach was very, very, it was ashamed. It was hiding the children. It wasn't publicly identifying with them. So my question to you is, tell us if you can about your process of coming to terms with a child of special needs like Iran. You were a war hero, you were celebrated, you were at the top of your game, and suddenly you were given a challenge that completely shifted, if you will, I would say, I would imagine, that sense of everything is going right. How did you come to terms with it? What was your process? And what inspired you to treat Iran as you would any of your children with all of your heart, all of your soul, which allowed him to flourish into the beautiful, precious person he became, as we can see from the video and the pictures?
You know, number one is my ode to my bleeding brother. This is number one. You know, all my life, I will have guilt feeling, not fighting with him, not evacuating him. All the military service due to his injury and due the simple fact that he was left behind, just like that. So this is number one. Number two, our child that was named after him 11 years after the Yom Kippur War became like something, a huge echo box of my bleeding brother. Where, you know, it's a tandem effect. And then the same oath became more powerful, more duplicated, more committed. And it took time. It was a process. You know, at first, at the age of 8 months, where he was diagnosed, and the psychologist told us, your son is having a combination of autism and retardation. He will never speak. He will permanently stay at the age of 3-4 months. You know, there are moments in your life you feel that the sky crashed on your head. That was a moment like that for Didi, my wife, and me. And I want to tell you that many parents considering suicide, some of them succeed ending their life. When I was the commander of the Israeli South Command, I was interviewing in a circumstance that a grandfather killed his autistic granddaughter and committed suicide. And every week, Didi, my wife, and me speaking with parents who are hopeless, who have no hope. They don't know how to continue managing their life. You know, and what we say as Jews, Kol Yisrael arevim ze laze. So how we maintain mutual responsibility? You know, people, okay, I was trained and educated and indoctrinated to fight for the state of Israel, but all the people of Israel was also indoctrinated to participate in effort of real war. But there are families who are in real war every single second. They need this social responsibility. They need the neighbors, they need volunteers, they need the spirit. So they need to be assisted. So we need to know there are some families, maybe they are neighbors, maybe they don't know to speak about it. Maybe they contain it in their house. Maybe they don't tell the sibling. Maybe they hide the secret. But the moment we know we need also to take responsibility and the system. And you know, it's about creating legitimacy for being parents to severely mentally disabled child.
Exactly. There's a certain stigma around having children with special needs, and that somehow or other people think it reflects somehow on themselves as parents, when of course, in fact, to the contrary, God gave them this situation. The universe presented them with this challenge. And by the way, I want to add something that was very part of the Rebbe's theology. He used to teach based on the Talmud, Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba b'trunya al briotav. God does not give a human being a greater challenge than he or she can handle, which means, he taught, that the more challenged you are in life, that is not a sign of your weakness, but your strength. In fact, the Hebrew word for nisayon, which means a test, comes from the word nes, which means to elevate, because it's a form of extracting, excavating from within you strengths you didn't know you had. And that, my dear Doron, is a nes, is a miracle. That's the miracle we create as human beings, when we rise above our nature and our impulse as such. You know, you mentioned something that reminded me of the saying, a nation's greatness is measured by how it treats its weakest members. And if you look throughout Tanakh, you find so many mitzvot that talk about the almanah, the widow, the yatom, the orphan, the ger. It says only once v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, but it says 32 times v'ahavta et hager. What does this teach us? To expand our circle of attention, not just to our immediate friends, but also to the ger, to those who would otherwise appear to be strange or othered. Doron, one more question on this topic. How would you say you as a human being, as an individual, were changed through Iran? What did Iran teach you, so to speak, in your own development, in your own emotional and character and psychological development?
Number one, to understand that the highest test of our people is the test of disabled people, how we treat the disabled. You know, because we praise successful people. You know, there's someone who did exit in business, made fortune, is influential, he got a Nobel Prize, is a professor in university. You know, success by the term that we judge as human being. And then someone is nothing. But what I'm saying, you know, this one, that we judge him as nothing, he should be the highest test of ourselves as society. I want to read one sentence from Shmuel Bet, the Bible, Shmuel Bet, Perek Tet, what King David, what he decided about the handicap. The last, it's about Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth was the son of Jonathan. So we asked if Jonathan left someone behind him. And then they found Mephibosheth. And what the last sentence, Pasuk Yud Gimel, article Yud Gimel, Mephibosheth Yoshev Beyerushalayim, ki al shulchan hamelech tamid hu ochel. And the last sentence, ve'u piseach shtei raglav. So the handicap, you know, that this one who unable, is not independent. Mephibosheth is around the table of the king.
Wow.
Every day, every night, all his life. So this is King David.
By the way, it's very beautiful. I want to share with you, maybe if some of our viewers don't know, but David HaMelech as a child was actually ostracized in his family. They thought that he had bad yichus, he had bad lineage. And they actually sent him into dangerous regions hoping that he would die from the wild animals that he was involved in the environment while shepherding. You know, and when the prophet came to Yishai to select one of the children for king, he took 7 of his children, 7 sons, and he didn't bring David because he never imagined David could become the king. And in the end, Hashem told the prophet, the prophet told Yishai, we don't look at appearances. That's not how it works in the spiritual realm, the world of truth. And it's exactly what you said, Al tistakel bekankan. I'm so moved by that picture of that girl who said, my husband, but what did he say? Ba'olam haba.
Yes, my beautiful.
I love that. I'm gonna follow up because I'd love to receive a few of these beautiful images. Let's move on a little bit to some of your missions. You know, you mentioned the Munich massacre. We hosted Dan Alon, who was one of the Olympians, who told us the story of what it was like to be trapped by these terrorists. And he says till today, he can't explain. At one point, the terrorist pointed a gun at him and didn't shoot him, and he doesn't know why. He told us the most moving stories, but you were involved in a mission, if I understand correctly, of, would it be retaliation? And if so,
Yeah.
are you able to share with us some of the details?
Yes, our Prime Minister Golda Meir told us, you hunt down until the last terrorist behind the Munich massacre. So I led the first operation in Tripoli, killing 18 from room to room from distance of 1 meter. Yeah, killing 18. We had a cruise of 48 hours, and we landed at night, marched 10 kilometers, and surprised them in their camp and home, and fought.
They were all located together?
All these 18. There were some camps, some centers, but in my objective, I led the operation as the first soldier from room to room, fighting and taking their weapons and giving my commander. When we flew back, we were evacuated by helicopters, and while flying back to Israel, I gave my commander, Uzi Airi, one of the Kalashnikov of the terrorists that I killed from 1 meter.
Wow.
And a year later, he was killed in another terrorist event in Tel Aviv. After the Yom Kippur War, I think it was April 1974, a group of terrorists landed with commando boats in Tel Aviv, took over the Savoy Hotel, took hostages, and Sayeret Matkal arrived. And Uzi Airi was at that time, was at the general headquarters. During the Yom Kippur War, he was the commander of the Power Brigade, my commander. And then he became responsible on operation at the general headquarters in Tel Aviv, and he rushed and joined Sayeret Matkal to this operation. He was the only Israeli soldier to be killed. Colonel Uzi Airi, holding the rifle, the Kalashnikov rifle that I gave him after the Tripoli.
Let me ask you, Doron, have you watched the film by Steven Spielberg, Munich?
No, I heard about, but
there was a strong criticism at the time that the film tended to humanize the terrorist, and it was a story told through the lens of an assassin who was coming to terms or emotional, he started to develop feelings for the people or the terrorists who he was meant to kill. I don't know if you've seen it or read the controversy, but in your view, as somebody in charge of these missions, how do you deal with that aspect of what you're doing? Obviously, this is a terrorist. The objective is to eliminate them, but then sometimes there were children, families, wife, the missions are aborted. How do you feel when you go through? Could you share with us a minute or two about your process?
Number one, we are human beings. And we behave as human beings, and we need to fight as long as the other side holding weapon.
Right.
There is only when there is real threat. If there is a child, people who are not involved in battles, we shouldn't kill them. We should keep strictly on this regulation. You know, many operations, I did the opposite. In the battle, when I found the children in terrorist camp, and I did many times. I came back and I told, okay, there were children, there were families, there were civilians. No, I didn't blow up the building because there were children inside. And many operations, I came back with prisoners because we need to interrogate people who were involved, were near terrorists. So we took some prisoners. But we shouldn't kill innocent people. This is imperative. This is imperative. You know, as a commander of the Israeli Southern Command, I evacuated many times Palestinians. Were injured during battles, and we evacuated them to Soroka Hospital. to treat them. And, I feel that this is a part of our faith, of our humanity.
Yes, if I remember correctly, Golda Meir may have said a line, something like, we can forgive you for taking the lives of our children, but we will never forgive you for forcing us to take the life of yours, which is quite a powerful sentiment. Actually, it goes back to the Bible. It says that Jacob, before fighting with Esau, it says that he was afraid twice. Once he was afraid for the damage that might happen to his family, and once he was afraid for the damage he might have to perform to the enemy, which is a very delicate balance, but the paradox of what it means to be a warrior in the Jewish tradition, always maintaining empathy and humanity. Were you ever, what is it like to engage in such an operation? Were you afraid for your life? I mean, what happened before you left home? How did you say goodbye to your wife, to your children? Were you ever...
It's happened many times. Many times. My parents knew. As a matter of fact, Isaac sacrifice is not in the Bible. It's in my house. After the Yom Kippur War, my commander wanted to give me the job of commander of a reconnaissance unit, the unit that I commanded in Entebbe. And he asked me to come to his office and tell me, you are bereaved family. Your brother was killed. I don't know if I have the moral power to give you this role of being the Mefaked Sayeret, Salchanim. I told him, go and speak with my parents. So he came to speak with my parents. My parents told him, if you trust him, you can send Doron whenever, whatever, any place in the world. You can do it. We know how to face bereavement. We lost our son. We'll know how to face bereavement. Another thing, both of them, my mom and father, they said if every bereaved family will tell the other children not going to combat unit, we won't survive. Wow. We need to be fighters. This is my family. So I'm educated. I was educated just to be ready to sacrifice my life. By the way, in Entebbe, my mom announced me, you are going to fly to Entebbe. 2 days before the operation, I came home from training mission. The moment I opened the door, my mom told me, my dear son, you're going to fly to Entebbe. I told her, what are you speaking, Mom? She said, you see this list of paper? All these people were looking for you, and I'm telling you, they are all of them from the operation branch in the headquarters. Sit down and call back because I'm telling you. So she knew.
Wow.
She knew. And my wife Didi, many times before operation, I came home with my officer and just laying on the carpet.
Were there many times where you thought to yourself, this is it? This is the end, where an operation went south and things weren't working out?
It never happened until my last officer, the commander of the Israeli South Command. I lost altogether, 84 people in 3 years of the, and my wife came with me to every funeral, funeral of these soldiers and citizens who were killed during my office as the commander of the Southern Command. So sometimes she told me, I'm feeling that we are living in ocean of blood.
Wow.
But at that time, we also planned to build Ale Negev. And I decided to leave the military for building Ale Negev.
Mm-hmm. How did you survive decades of funerals, of dealing with that? How did you survive? How did you continue to get up and keep going?
I don't know if I have right answer, but I always felt that we need to create hope. Right. We need to give people hope. People who lost their son, and by the way, I spoke about committing suicide. I want to tell you that also people who are losing their children, right, considering ending their life. Wow. It's happened, and many times I found myself hugging parents, father, mother, and then continue keeping them, encouraging them. speaking with them why they need to continue, maintain life, giving life to other children, sibling, grandchildren, and why they need to create hope.
Right.
You know, there's the suffer. You can put the suffer in front of you and the pain in front of you, but I believe we need to put it here in the back and ear to create hope. Hope. The hope in front of us, not the pain and the suffer. Yes, we have pain and suffer and agony. Yes, but here in front of us, we need, you know, something like a hope, yes, to take us.
So like the pain is the stone that weighs us down. Hope is the wings that lift us. And it's such a powerful message today because we see a lot of young people struggling to get over certain things in their life or their past. And your message is incredibly empowering. And I think what you said highlights something extraordinary, which is the parents of the soldiers are deserving of so much attention and compassion, but also celebration. That attitude of your mother is absolutely incredible, where she said, you can take him and send him wherever. It's such a commitment to the cause that's astounding. It's astounding. There's no concern for personal feelings and so on. And by the way, we hosted a few years ago Amir Ofer. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, of course. He was under my command also.
So he told us.
From Sayeret Matkal, yes, of course.
He told us an amazing thing about the operation in Entebbe, because he was there with you. I don't know if he shared this with you, but he said that he was very sick on the plane coming over because you flew very low.
Yes. There was it was very bumpy at the first stage of the flight. It was very bumpy, and one of the soldiers of Sayeret Matkal was taken down.
Taken off.
Taken off. Yes, when we landed in Sharm el-Sheikh, we took off from Ben Gurion, the military part of Ben Gurion Airport. And then the flight was in low altitude, very bumpy and jumpy, and one of the soldiers was vomited. And then we landed in Sharm el-Sheikh for the last briefing, and this soldier couldn't continue. We left him.
So he said that they took some medication also, but he said when you landed in Entebbe, the plane didn't stop. You jumped off as it was going. And he said when he came off the plane, he was so confused because of the sickness and everything. He thought that his group was in front of him. This is what he told us. So you were meant to run along the strip and go around the building. And he said he wanted to catch up, so he ran in front. He cut in front of the building, thinking he was catching up. And in the end, he was the first one to take fire from the terrorist. And he said he said it was a miracle because he said if the terrorists had heard all the shooting, it could be they would have had time to actually hurt the passengers. Which is just, tell us a little bit about Yoni, a little bit about your feeling when you were on the plane heading to the mission. I mean, it was considered impossible by normal military strategic odds. Can you share a little bit about your thought process?
Number one, we were friends, Yoni and me. We recruited new paratroopers in 1972 before the Yom Kippur War. Yoni for his unit and for the paratrooper unit. So number one, we knew and we liked each other. After the Yom Kippur War, we did operation in Syria together. At that time, he converted from infantry to armor. So at that time, he was deputy armor battalion commander, but he joined my group to a raid into Syria on Mount Hermon, the ridge of Mount Hermon. He joined because we wanted also along the route inside this raid also to discover and if the terrain may be fit for moving tanks along the ridge of Mount Hermon. So he joined me as armor, as he was infantry, but as armor. So we did a raid over the Syrian tractor bulldozers that came from side of Damascus and some more missions, 48 hours deep in Syria. I loved them. And while flying to Entebbe, I laid under the Mercedes. And the Mercedes, when you describe the jumpy flight, so this Mercedes was standing on the ramp and hitting, and the gasoline tank hit the ramp, and then because I was underneath, and then I started leak of gasoline. I told Yoni, there's leak of gasoline, and said, okay, what you suggest? Told him, no, with chewing gum we close it, and so we close with chewing gum. Before landing, Yoni moved from soldier to soldier. We shook hands, hug, and I jumped first when we landed. My mission was to mark the runway for Mo 3 Hercules and take over the new control tower. So about 3,000 meters before they disembarked the Mercedes in the 200, where I jumped with my group, 10 soldiers. Well, 4 of them marked the runway because they switch off the lights. When they understood there is a landing without permission of airplane, they switch off and blacken everything. So 4 of my soldiers run and put battery lights every 100 meters, 7 each side, 600 altogether. And then we crossed inside and took over the new control tower, killed the 4 Ugandan guards near the control towers. And at that time, they continue with the Mercedes and Ofer and Yoni with 35 soldiers mounted on the Mercedes and the 200, and they did a great mission. The feeling that you described is very personal. You know, some people feel better, some feel a kind of vertigo, but it's very personal.
Right. Yes, and he shared that actually you weren't allowed to tell anyone that you were part of the mission for some time afterwards, but your mother knew even before you went, so you had no problem.
And I want to tell you another thing in this respect. When we flew back to Israel, it was 3 a.m., the middle of the night. The Israeli radio said there was operation in Entebbe, the hostages are flying back home. One of the high-ranking officer badly wounded. That was the Israeli radio. My parents didn't sleep at that night. They were listening the radio, and then, you know, they were waiting. 7 a.m., I landed with my group in Tel Nof Air Base, and then I raised telephone. So my mom always was answering first. So my mom picked up the phone, and when she sounded my voice, the first sentence was, "Who was killed?"
Oh.
I told her Yoni. And you know, she understood someone bad happened, because in the radio, when they say high-ranking officer was badly wounded or something like that, she knew someone was killed. So the first question, who was killed? And it happened later in my service. It happened to me many times with my wife. Before operation, I came home, she knew. And then she was listening all night to the Israeli radio. Sometime about 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., the Israeli radio said something. Our soldiers in make operation behind enemy line. And then, you know, some slow music of memorial, something like that. So, you know, no one speak, but there are some hints. So it happened to me many times when Didi, my wife, also raised the telephone and asked me who was killed.
Doron, can I ask you, how many missions have you taken on? How many missions have you been involved in personally?
Hundreds of missions. You know, the number is...
And let me ask you, Doron, do you miss it?
No. You know, the military and fighting for the state of Israel, that was in a period of wartime. And when I finished my office as the commander of the Israeli South Command, I read Kohelet. And yes.
There's a time for war and a time for
Time
peace.
to war and time to peace. And I read all this chapter and I told them, now I go for peace.
Wow.
And that's what I'm doing in Ale Negev.
So do any of your military friends, do you get together often? Do you live a life that's culturally associated with a lot of your military friends?
Of course, I have many friends in military, but I'm involved until now. I'm lecturing every month.
Right.
I'm advising to Chief of Staff. I'm advising to Ministry of Defense. So many times they ask me to come and
so let me ask you now, with a few minutes left, I want to ask you a few interesting, maybe difficult questions also. I recently read the book that's provocative by Ronen Bergman. Maybe you've come across it, called Rise Up and Kill Them First. And he describes many of the missions that Israel undertook, surgical, targeted killings for terrorists and so forth. And what comes through time and again, and this is his perspective, so that's why I want to get yours, is that very often the people eliminated were in a certain sense better than the people who replaced them. And so my question to you is, of course, there's an imminent threat. You have to eliminate the threat. But what is the long-term view, the long-term aspiration and hope, according to you, someone with such intimate and comprehensive war experience? Is there a hope? Is there a solution to these conflicts? What is it in your view? How can we get there?
I believe, yes. I believe that, of course, we had war with Egypt. They said in the past, they said they will throw the Jews to the sea.
Right.
The Egyptian. We have a peace treaty, peace accord with Egypt. You may say, okay, called peace, but it's peace. The relationship with Egypt is no different between 1982 or 1979 when the peace agreement with Egypt was signed. Later, 1995, we signed peace with Jordan. As a matter of fact, the border, the eastern border of the state of Israel is not the Jordan Valley. It's the eastern border of Jordan and Iraq. Because Jordan, protecting its land, but also while protecting their land, they also preventing the terrorists and hostile forces to cross Jordan and enter Israel.
It's a buffer zone.
So we have two peace accords with Jordan, and of course with the Egyptian. We tried with the Lebanese, it didn't work. We tried with the Oslo Agreement, it didn't work. We tried with the Palestinian, but I believe that slowly they understand because of Israel's power, because of Israel's might, because of our victories. We don't have the privilege to lose one. We need always to win every battle, every war. So, I believe that we also should create a hope among our enemies and the Palestinians and the Arabs. And I believe this Friday I'm going to speak, I'm going to lecture about the opportunity to set another contract, another agreement with more Arab countries, mainly the Gulf, the Saudis.
Right.
Yes, then due to the political situation and the rise of Iran right now, they are Shia and they are Sunni, doesn't matter. But at the end, they have interest, and the Saudis' interest and the Gulf countries' interest also to maintain a better relationship with Israel. They have long, for about in the last 20 years, they have better relationship. So slowly we may change the Middle East. Of course, the radical Islam, which is totalitarian, and they want to take over all over the world and to make everyone Muslim. So this is a different story. Right. But we need to believe in ourselves, in our power, in our Judaism, and our values. We need to also to make more partners in the Middle East.
Right.
And to believe, yes, and to
interest.
Yes, and we need to believe that the peace is somewhere feasible. Yes, we may arrive to peace.
Interesting. A few more, just a few final questions. You worked closely with many of the Israeli prime ministers. If you are comfortable sharing, maybe a quick few anecdotes about I don't know if you worked with Begin, or if you, Menachem Begin, or Shamir, or Rabin, or Sharon. Just a few, give us a taste of who these people were. Short, but beautiful. If you have something you could share.
And there's not, you know,
It's a big question.
you know, there's one thing about Entebbe. Prime Minister Rabin at that time served as a prime minister, and it was not sure. It was not sure that that
The mission would succeed.
it would be a success. So he left a letter of resignation,
Wow.
and his assistant, Oded Iran, was his personal assistant, asked him, "What do you mean resignation?" He said, "If the operation failed." And I asked him, "What do you mean if the operation failed?" He said, "If we lose 25 and more in Entebbe, I leave office. I resign." So he prepared
Wow.
the letter, the paper for resignation, taking responsibility. I think this is something which says a lot about the loneliness of decision-making.
Yes.
You know, at this level, you know, you're sending troops behind enemy lines. I participated in many briefings with the Prime Minister of Israel before operation, and many times when we start describing the operation, the first question, why we need it, why it's so important, and then the second question always, do you think people may be killed? What may be the price? And what may be go wrong along the operation? And then again, why it's so important, this operation? You know, the balance of judgment,
Right.
every time by taking risk. And you know, people of Israel here, the people of Israel and the Jews all over the world, they don't know
Right.
how many times Prime Minister of Israel is so lonely to take so difficult decision.
Right.
You
right.
don't know, you know, we always, when we speak about Entebbe, it's all in retrospect.
Right.
But
Sure.
in real time, we don't know what will happen in the next minute.
Exactly. And it was such a daring mission. It was crazy to think in those terms. If you know, before the fact, it would have been an impossible decision under, you know, if we could only imagine. Did you know Menachem Begin?
Of course I knew him, but at that time I was young, and I was in, after his resignation. There was time that due to the war in Lebanon, he left office because he didn't believe that the price would be so high, and he thought he was deceived by people around him. But due to the price of families, the bereaved families who protested against the war in Lebanon, day after day, week after week, and he was so righteous, so you know, so straight. And then he resigned. He left office due the price of the war in Lebanon, the unexpected price. He didn't expect the price and the stay of.
Doron, I'm going to ask two more questions or three, and that's it. One question is, if you could have lunch with anyone alive today, who would it be?
With my wife, of course.
Okay, I'll send her the recording. Okay.
No, we are together. You know, we are together.
Well, you've been through so much. You've been through
trouble and hope and love. And she was sitting here before.
Wow.
And we are going to have dinner together right now. But she's the person now. We always would love to have lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever to discuss with her.
That's a beautiful answer. And if you can go back in history, who would you love to have dinner with in Jewish history? Is there anyone who inspires you, anyone who you would have loved to meet or connect or learn from?
I think Moses was the greatest.
Uh-huh.
Moses is the greatest.
You know,
there are so many questions about him. You know, he was educated in the Egyptian palace.
Right. Exactly. And are you planning, Doron, to ever write a book about your life experiences?
Right now I'm busy writing the third chapter. Yes, I'm
Beautiful. Well,
I'm writing.
We look forward very much to reading it and hopefully hosting you for a book launch here in London, please, God. I'm very serious. And I just want to conclude by asking if you have a final lesson or message you want to leave everyone with, aside for, of course, to try to participate as best as possible materially, physically, here in London or when we come to Israel. But is there something you would share with the audience about your philosophy for success in life, one teaching or two with which we conclude?
I think above all is, as we say, kadma derech eretz leTorah. First of all, to be a human being. First of all, to love human being. To give love around us, to dedicate our life for loving people. And I think this is the most important thing. And in this respect, loving the disabled is the highest test of our society and humanity. To assist and to stretch our hand to those people who really need us. And to ask every day, what can we do for more compassion, for more tzedakah, for more chesed, to make people much easier life around us, our neighbor, in our family, and to be less selfish, less arrogant, and more dedicate our life for those who really need us. That's my message.
That takes a whole life to live on. But Doron, I want to take this moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of everyone here. I could sit and talk to you for hours. You're such a fascinating and inspiring individual. And I look forward, actually, coming back. When I go to Israel, we travel often, to hopefully having the opportunity to meet in person. But in the meantime, I want to end by blessing you and your wife and your family with continued good health, with prosperity, with strength, with energy, to be able to serve as the beacon of light that you are by word and example, to look after one another, and especially those that are overlooked by society, and in this way elevate us all to a higher state of consciousness and development, to be or lagoyim. I'll never forget, I invited the former chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Meir Lau, to speak in London, and he said, what should I speak about? So we had 4 events. So one, I said, speak about the importance of being a light to the goyim, to the world. He says, what or la goyim? Or la Yehudim. I need to speak more about being a light within the own communities. That's an important, and you are both or la goyim and or la Yehudim. And let me just say, we bless you and we pray to Hashem to bring about that time that the prophets, Yeshayahu and others prophesied, when the hikitzu v'ranenu shochne afar, when umacha Hashem dim'a me'al kol panim, and ubila hamavet lanetzach, and we will dance together with Eran, your brother, Bezrat Hashem, alav hashalom zechet tzadik livracha, and Eran, your son, zichrono livracha, and I would say zechet tzadik livracha because he was the purest of the pure and the holiest of the holy. May it be b'mhera b'yameinu, amen. Thank you so much. Sending you blessings and love from London, and we look forward to hearing from you and being inspired by you again and again.
Amen. Amen, Rabbi Mendel. Thank you for this conversation. Please continue showing love and empathy to Israel. Please come and visit when this coronavirus is over. Please continue being with us. Together we are much stronger. We love you. Thank you.
God bless you.